Hello. Well, today we're continuing on discussing all of the Jaws films, and so of course today we are gonna, well, at least I am gonna discuss Jaws 3, originally in 3D. And I don't have 3D glasses for my television, therefore I cannot access the bonus feature of uh, watching this film on the big, on the in 3D, you know, you know, so yeah, you need a full HD 3 TV, which I don't think my TV is. I know it's 4K, but I don't think it's at least I don't believe it's 3D capable. Though I do have a Sony PlayStation 3 or later. I do have 3 and 4 and 5, so I guess I could definitely. I have that capability, but that's really it. But yeah, to summarize this film, the most famous shark is back, bigger and more terrifying than ever in Jaws 3. Starring David Quaid, Bess Armstrong, Simon McCorkindale, and Louis Gossett Jr. If only I could speak properly, that'd be great. And up on the corner it says, a deadly new attraction. Everyone at Florida's SeaWorld is thrilled with a new undersea kingdom, a maze of underwater plexiglass tunnels that permits visitors to get close to marine life than ever before. The opening ceremonies may, include many important guests and one uninvited baby shark who accidentally enters the park's lagoon through a faulty sea gate. Yes, that's what sort of happens. That that is what sort of begins the attraction. At the beginning, you see, people like water skiing and women on top of guys who are, as you know, they're doing it for like a show for an attraction and everything. And they all fall in the water, and then they eventually get up, but still, there's movement and everything. So the shark's attracted to that, and that's how the shark gets into the lagoon. But the baby shark subsequently dies. The young shark's 35-foot mother soon follows her offspring, creating the most horrifying tale of terror ever filmed in the water. Debatable, but okay, gotta try to keep people interested. This is directed by Joe Alves, the original Jaws designer, also to help, who was the production designer also on Jaws 2. Also Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Doesn't say that here, but I figure I should just mention that. And co-written by Carl Gottlieb, who penned the first 2 blockbusters. This action-packed adventure will have you screaming for your life. I don't think it's that dramatic, but, whatever. So, Dennis Quaid, well, he plays Michael Brody. And John Pudge, he's Sean Brody. So there you go. The Brody brothers are back in this film. But, of course, as I mentioned last time, no Roy Scheider. Because he's like, I'm not doing more Jaws, thanks. Bess Armstrong plays Kay Morgan. Simon McCorkindale plays Philip Fitzroyce, who he wants to kill the shark that's in the that has entered the enter SeaWorld, and do do it as it's filmed, and therefore you get a media coverage. But Katie's like, no, we'll get the shark and take care of it, and Michael's helping out too. There's, obviously like Michael and Kay are both, frequently seen together, and obviously are in a relationship and all. One thing Sean actually does mention briefly, he's not fond of the water in this film, basically because of things that happened when he was a kid, referencing the first two films. Yeah, that's for the most part. That's probably the most direct reference beyond the Brody brothers being in the film. Outside of that, it's like, and Leah Thompson is in this film as Kellyanne Bukowski. She and Sean get together in this film, and she's one of the women who are, who was at the beginning helping to, or one of the women on top of the skiers doing like stuff to entertain, the guests at SeaWorld, and Louis Gossett Jr. is Calvin Bouchard, who is he's the guy who's like running SeaWorld, and he wants all the people safe, and but also if there's something that can help get more eyes on SeaWorld, well, all right. Though he doesn't seem to be somebody who wants to, who's as inept like, say, the mayor in Jaws 1 and 2, Mayor Vaughn. At least whenever I've watched this film, it doesn't really seem like that to me. P.H. Moriarty, and I keep looking over here because I have the cast list, so that way I actually can say and pronounce the names properly, as opposed to just full-on butchering them as I have in the past. He plays Jack Tate, who is Fitzroy's assistant, and is yeah. But beyond the general description of the back, I don't think I should really say much more about this film. Leah Thompson, this was, I believe, her first film. A couple years after this, she would become well known because of Back to the Future. And I saw in an interview, apparently, Dennis Quaid was very much into drugs, and so particularly cocaine. And he says he doesn't remember filming this movie at all because of his drug habits. So that's an interesting thought, or trivia, or whatever, factoid, whatever you want to say. But yeah, so David Quaid apparently, or Dennis Quaid, why did I say David? Yeah, but yeah, Dennis Quaid apparently doesn't really remember filming really anything of this movie. And obviously this is really the beginning of the end of Jaws. A lot of people don't like this film. I'm not particularly crazy about it myself. But it isn't a horrendous film, I guess. The acting for what we've got here for like a story and everything is fine and competent overall. But it's like it's just like, do we need a Jaws 3, especially one in 3D? Though of course the 3D craze was pretty popular back then. It became back into fashion in the 80s, especially since Friday the 13th Part 3 came out a year before this, so that was making money, and so I'm from what I've gathered, they were already working on a third Jaws film. But now, once the third Friday the 13th film started to make quite a bit of money, especially with the 3D aspect, well, let's make this in 3D instead, or as well. And as a result, if you don't have 3D glasses, a bunch of stuff kind of goes up into your face, and yeah. And some of the effects aren't always the best. Let's just say that. Yeah, this is a movie that it's like, it's definitely a low point. Jaws 2 was not a necessary film at all. I think most people agree. First film was excellent. Good movie, good story, good characters. Second movie, pretty good. In a way, better than you would necessarily think. But, hey, it's a fine movie. And yet, this film, it's like this was absolutely unnecessary. Did we need a third film? No. This does not really add much to the Jaws world. And I don't want to jump too ahead of myself here, but when it comes to the next film, this film doesn't seem to even exist anymore. So I'll get into that next time. But yeah, this is just one of those films that's just kind of like this was definitely unnecessary. Again, many sequels aren't necessary unless it was sort of planned out to be multiple movies, which does happen sometimes. But with Jaws, that was based off of a book. They adapted that book and in many ways improved from the book because they got rid of a bunch of stuff that was unnecessary. And then the sequels try to go from there. And I guess you could say there's an effort there, like they were making sequels that didn't need to exist and trying to build off of this world that Spielberg really helped launch. But with each sequel, it doesn't really... You just kind of wish it just stayed with one. Again, 2 is a fine film. But again, not necessary. And I'll say next time what I think is kind of like the worst one of this and the fourth film, because even today there's a lot of people who don't enjoy 3 a lot. Like they prefer 4 over it, and there are people who prefer this over 4. Yeah. But I will always, even with whatever ranking I give, I still have the same consensus. This didn't need to exist. Neither does the fourth. And even the second one, even though that one is actually pretty good, it doesn't need to exist. Let's all be honest here. And apologies for kicking that. I just moved my leg, and if I was too close to the tripod and all. But yeah, it's one of those things. An unnecessary sequel. I think everybody who has watched these films knows that they're unnecessary. Even if you enjoy one of the sequels, usually people like 2 the best of the sequels. Even then, you're just like, yeah, this never needed to exist. It was made because the first film made so much money. The second film didn't make as much money as the first one, but it made a good amount of money. This film did make a decent amount of money. I don't recall offhand how much it made, but it wasn't awful. It was not a blunder or anything. And if they do back then what they do today, where they charge you more for to see the film in 3D, which I've heard some people say they did, some say they didn't, whatever. But yeah, yeah, this is a film that's quite unfortunate, in the sense that, yeah, it just didn't need to be made. Nobody needed to make it, but again, if the previous films make money, gotta have as many sequels as possible. And this came out last year. I actually recently got this, as well as Jaws the Revenge. And I have to say, I'm actually surprised that the slipcover is still a thing. I mean, I guess maybe these two didn't sell so well, or Universal is actually still just making these. I know the 4K transfer wasn't all that great on this, especially with the 3D stuff. It just how that was shot, and they just didn't handle it well. And there have been a lot of criticisms for the 4Ks and stuff with Universal in some instances. But yeah, this doesn't look all that phenomenal on that aspect. But at the same time, I try not to be one of those guys who's like, oh, it has to be like pure and whatever. I mean, I guess, you do the best with you do the best you can, and sometimes the best doesn't always come out as you hope. So yeah. Anyway, that's Jaws 3. Yeah, not big on this, but there are worse films out there, I guess. But yeah, actually, I guess I could say I don't know. I don't enjoy this. I enjoy Jaws: Revenge a bit more, and I'll get more into that next week. But I mean, that kind of was a dumb thing, a dumb kind of plot, I guess you could say. And even here, a lot of people point out like, that's a terrible sort of advertisement of sorts. Yeah, for SeaWorld. Go to SeaWorld, and a great white shark might attack you there. While you're, at one of these shows or something, you might see somebody get attacked by a shark that just comes into like the, that area with whatever show is going on and everything. Or in this film, there's this underwater thing you could see. Everything, the shark could come and attack you and everything. So yeah, I don't want to say all who dies, because it's interesting to see what all happens. And yeah, it's definitely an interesting film to watch at least once, I will say that. Especially if you do like a marathon, you just see just how this franchise just went from being at the top to just going down. And even though I do prefer the fourth one a bit more over this one, it's still not that great. I would rank the franchise 1 being the best, then 2, 4, and 3. But then again, 3 and 4 are kind of like, not that too far apart. They're just not very good. I mean, Louis Gossett Jr. is an excellent actor. Not that the other people in this film aren't good, and other things, but I just think that of his character, I don't think he was utilized as much as he should have been. This guy won an Academy Award for his work in An Officer and Gentleman, which came out the year before this. So it's like, I mean, obviously, he's probably getting a good amount of money. and he filmed this before he ever got the Oscar. But still, it's like, guy's a very good and respected actor. I would think you'd want to make sure you capitalize on him and make sure he has quite a bit more important scenes, because I mean, he does have important moments, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I feel like he was a little underutilized. I mean, I get Quaid and Armstrong are the main characters and all, but he should definitely have been a stronger character, in my opinion. I guess, of course, people could say he was a very strong character and had enough screen time and everything, but I don't know. I just feel like it was a bit of a waste for him. And but yeah, I will say I'm never really bored with the lesser Jaws films. At least, I'm not. At least there are probably people who will be like, "Oh, I was." And I definitely understand, but I don't know. I just have never been at a point where I thought, wow, this really is a real bore. There's always something going on that just kind of catches your eye for one reason or another. Either that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess. Especially with how the 3D is, it's kind of weird, particularly when you're just watching it in 2D. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's Jaws 3. And I am done this time. I'm not going to just go on. That's something else that I recalled that I wanted to speak about. So, yeah. What do you think about Jaws 3? Do you enjoy this movie? Do you dislike this movie? I guess, where would you put this on your Jaws ranking, or ranking of Jaws films? Yeah. Speaking in sentences is hard. Boy, I can't speak right now. So, just another reason for me to go away. Yeah, let me know what you think of this film. Like it, dislike it, somewhere in between, whatever. I hope you're doing well. Please have a great day, have a great weekend, and I hope you'll have a great week that's coming. And I shall see you all next time. Please take care.